This is Adrian from Tech Support at AB Technology Group. In this video we're going to cover some more of the installation process of fire sleeve on a hose and how to finish the end of the fire sleeve. So in an earlier video we dipped the fire sleeve in sealant, and this now has had some time to dry, and you can see how the sealant has wicked itself inside the fire sleeve so that the white fiberglass substrate has been coated. You can also see the wicking effect that the fire sleeve has on the liquid sealant. So it's done a nice job. This is very well protected from absorbing fluids in situ when this is installed, when the hose is installed on whatever piece of equipment it might be on. So we'll continue with the installation. Here's our sample hose, and we're just going to slide it in to the fire sleeve, and we're going to slide that up on the compression part of the fitting on the back shell, so that it is up as far as it can be on the crimped portion, leaving the uncrimped portion exposed. So this can now be further treated. I'm going to pull that back just a little bit to give us some room for either more liquid or more dip or paste rather, or some end sealant tape. So we can go ahead and we can install our clamp on this at this point. If you require a clamp, perhaps your installation doesn't require a clamp. So what more can we do to protect the fire sleeve at this point and protect the hose? Well, we could take a paintbrush and we could apply more of the liquid right on the end of the fitting, and then slide the sleeve up on that, and that will make a good seal. The other thing that we can do is use the paste instead of the liquid. That would also make a good seal. It will take a little longer for that to dry, to cure, because there's not as much airflow in that area. This product, the liquid sealant and the paste, they both cure by removing moisture from the air. So with very little airflow in that area, it's going to take longer to cure. So it will require a full 24 hours. In this case, I applied the liquid silicone sealant, the dip product. I applied that a few hours ago, and just in a couple of hours this is dried to the point of being able to handle it. All right, and then the last thing would be to use the silicone tape. We're not going to get a great bind of the silicone tape down onto the back shell of the fitting, simply because of the amount of over edge that exists here. The tape isn't going to curl over that far. If we wanted to use the tape for sure, we could maybe go back on the fitting like this, and that would result in a better coverage area. Now we've got quite a bit of fitting that we could still clamp it. So let's say we're going to slide in this far where my fingernail is on the back shell, and now we know that the clamp would have to go right up front on the fire sleeve, and if we go in a little bit further, then the clamp can go in a little bit further back. So I'm going to clamp this and then use the tape, or the other way around, put the tape on and then the clamp. It just depends on your preference. If you want the clamp exposed, so if it's exposed, it's easy to inspect. If it has the tape on it, it's not so easy to inspect. So I'm going to go ahead now and put some tape on it, and we'll put the clamp on after. How much tape to use? Well, one turn of tape around this fire sleeve, being an 09 size, 9/16. So 8/16 is half an inch. It's just a little bit more than a half an inch. So we're going to end up using 1.5 inches of tape per wrap to get around the fire sleeve. I want about 3 wraps, so 4.5 inches of tape. You can just eyeball it. This is going to appear to be about the right amount of tape. I'm going to cut it at this point. I don't have to cut it. I could actually just pull the back liner off, but it has a liner paper, not a paper, it's a plastic film. This one is a polyurethane film, but other ones have a PET film. All right, so now I can put this tape on the fire sleeve and the back portion of the fitting where it has been crimped. And I'm just going to hold the tape with my finger and try to estimate the amount of tape that's going to fall inside the crimp area. And you see the tape has very high compressibility, and it is hugging very nicely on the back shell and on the fire sleeve. And I'm just going to continue to wrap my tape onto the fire sleeve. And there we have it. So that's a pretty good assembly. The nut is still free to spin, and the fire sleeve is covering the back shell quite nicely. It's nice and tight. You can see it conforming to the profile of the back shell, and it has completely covered up the exposed fire sleeve, and it's gone back over to the dip area. So it's a very nice assembly at that point. It's not going to be able to absorb any contamination or fluids. So that's a pretty good assembly. If I want to put the clamp on, I can do that now over the tape. And the only consideration there is that the clamp edges sometimes are sharp, and they might compress the tape or slightly cut the tape, depending on the style of clamp. So one does have to be careful with the clamp and the amount of tension. And the clamp will be on another video. So that's it for this particular fire sleeve. Oh, not quite. I have one more here, of course, the other one that had the dip on it. I'm going to do the same routine. This is a slightly smaller fire sleeve, so it's going to take a little less tape. Again, I'm just going to eyeball it, roughly what 3 turns would take, and I'm going to say maybe about there. I'm going to cut the tape, remove the liner, remove the liner, and now to assemble that, I'm going to, there's the free end of the nut, and there's the rear shell. So I'm going to cover that, hold it with my finger, and just start wrapping. There we go. Whoop, that didn't quite make it. Going to hold that on a little more aggressively. And there we go. Now I've managed to get the tape over the rear of the fitting and also onto the fire sleeve. And I'll just continue to stretch the tape, and it self-seals. It's a self-amalgamating tape. Just push that down. And I can also add a clamp to this if I want at this point. And but that's a very nice completion there. This fire sleeve is going to be very well protected from absorbing anything. So on to the next video here, which will be installing the clamps.